Hi, this is Mark from Top Local. We're here with Bernie Pawlik, Pawlik Automotive in Vancouver, talking cars. How you doing, Bernie?
Good, very well.
So we're going to talk about a Mercedes, 1995 Mercedes C220 that needed an ignition lock replacement. This car is getting pretty old. What was wrong with the ignition?
Well, our client had to have the vehicle towed into the shop because he could not turn the key. It would slide into the ignition lock, but it was simply jammed up. The key wouldn't turn, so the steering wheel's locked up, and the car wouldn't start. Pretty serious if you want to go anywhere.
So I would just taking a wild guess. I imagine was not simple repair.
No, it wasn't. It was actually extremely complicated on this car because the way it's designed, Mercedes being a little more advanced than most manufacturers, tend to think of, how can we make sure people can't just, punch a screwdriver through the lock and break the key. So it's extremely difficult to do anything with this vehicle once the key locks up. Even dismantling it, getting it out of the dash is a horrendous amount of work. It's the lock cylinder is, it's very precise. Things have to be, to take the lock apart, you have to turn the key to a certain position. Well, if you can't do that, then it's a matter of like breaking things apart, and that's no simple task because you can't even take the lock cylinder off the dash easily to bust things apart. There's a lot of dismantling involved in the process.
So if the owner had come in at the first sign of trouble, would this have been an easier repair?
Super easy. The way this vehicle is designed, if you can turn the lock to position 1, there's a little tool and a ring on the front of the lock. You twist it, it comes out. It would have been probably $100 to $150 job to fix it, put a new lock cylinder in. You left it, it's going to be probably $1,000 or so because you have to replace the whole lock unit behind it. Excessive amount of labor, not excessive, but it's just what it takes to do the job. So there's a lot more work. So if you have one of these cars, the key is, the moment you experience any issues with the lock, like it's a little stiff, or get the lock cylinder, the key cylinder replaced right away while you still can, because it's cheap and easy. I'm going to share a couple of photos of the job just so you can kind of get some magnitude of what's going on here. Just give me a second here. Let's share. And so here's a view of the dash with the steering wheel off, and the on the right here. This is the actual lock cylinder after we've broken the ring off the front, drilled out the lock. The steering wheel normally sits here. The dash has been removed, or the instrument cluster has been removed. The lower dash panel. So there's a lot to remove to get at this lock. So that's just some of an example of what needs to be done. Here's a close-up of the lock cylinder, somewhat destroyed. Again, had he been able to do it with the key, this would have been an easy job and would have popped out. But again, it wouldn't turn. And finally, I'll just share another photo. This is the whole lock assembly. So on your right, this is the lock and tumblers with new keys. Again, it just slides into this unit right here. But all of this part needs to be replaced because the lock wouldn't work. And again, they make it so difficult on a Mercedes. If you can't turn the lock, you can't remove this piece from the steering column. So it's a smart thing because it makes the car very difficult to steal, but it takes a lot of work to get it fixed back up.
So all those movies where they're hijacking Mercedes easily are lying, basically.
Sorry, Mark, could you just repeat that again?
So all those movies where they're hijacking Mercedes easily are lying.
Yeah, well, it's a little more work than they show in the movies.
So getting your car in at first sign of trouble always seems like a theme when it comes to car repairs and service. Is that right?
Absolutely. I mean, this is kind of the theme and why I wanted to talk about this particular issue, because it's critical when you start having a problem to bring the car in right away. If you get a little noise in an engine, bring it in, get it fixed right away. Same with a noise while you're driving the car down the road. If it's a bearing, say in a differential, it's cheaper to fix the bearings than it is to do a complete differential. Once it breaks the gears. So you generally always save money by fixing things at the first sign of trouble. They don't get better. Very, very rare.
So how are these 1990 era Mercedes? Are they faring well as they age?
They're ups and downs. I mean, some things like the engines themselves are good. The transmissions, a lot of, that they're more problematic. say the engines are good. I mean, overall they're a well-built car, but there's a lot of electrical problems. In the 90s, there was a lot of bad wiring in Mercedes, and I mean, overall, I just, you know, to me they're not really a worthwhile car to own. But even the nice ones, they're just not as nice as the next generation. That when you get into the 2000s, it seems like Mercedes just made this quantum leap in terms of what they offer in a car. And I would just, you know, quite honestly, I mean, if you have one and it works, great, keep it. It is a nice car, but they're not, you know, they're getting on in age, and not my highest recommendation if you're looking to buy a used Mercedes. Buy something that's, you know, newer in the 2000s.
So there you go. If you need service on your Mercedes in Vancouver, the guys to see are Pawlik Automotive. You can reach them at 604-327-7112 to book your appointment, or check out their website, pawlikautomotive.com. Thanks, Bernie.
Thanks, Mark.